This is section 6.1 called Ratios and Unit Rates. Okay, so a ratio, here's our definition here, is a comparison of two quantities. And what a quantity is a fancy word for saying a number or amounts. Okay, fancy way to say we're comparing two numbers and seeing what their how they compare to each other. It can be written as the following. We can write them A over B, like a fraction. We can write them A to B, or A colon B, or write them out as words as A to B. And just A and B are variables again. They could put any number in them. Doesn't matter what number we put in them. We can put a number. That's why it's a variable. Okay, so here's an example of how to use a ratio. Number 1, ratio of girls. So let's say in our class. Ratio of girls to boys. Okay, we could write that. Let's see. I think we have 4 boys if we count Porter, and 6 girls. So girls, we would have 6 to 10, or sorry, not 6 to 4, or we could write it 6 over 4, right, because A over B, or we could write it 6 colon 4. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to write ratios. Typically, the one I prefer using is writing it as a fraction because then we can do something with it numerically. We can multiply it, we can divide it, we can add it, subtract it. With the other ones, we can't really do that. So that's why I prefer writing it as a fraction. Okay, let's do a couple more. We can't do this one. In class, those who wore jeans or non-jeans, let's say 5 wore jeans and 5 wore sweatpants because lots of you like to wear sweatpants. Okay, so we could write it 5 over 5, we could write it 5 colon 5, or we could write it 5 to 5. That would be jeans to non-jeans. Ratio of oldest to non-oldest kids. Okay, so I did the calculations and I know that oldest, 9 of you are the oldest, to 1, that is not the oldest. We got Porter, that's it. That is not the oldest in our classroom. 9 to 1. Okay, so again, this is specific to our class, but really we could just I want you to get used to how could you write these out. Okay, so there's some examples. We should write them in simplest form. Okay, so 9 to 1, we would write it that way. 5 to 5, I could just write it as 1 to 1, right, because that would be the same. On the other page, I had 6 to 4. I could reduce that to 3 to 2. Okay, if I divided both by 2. So make sure you're using it in simplest form. Okay, so that's a ratio. We're comparing two things. Now we have a new word to define, which is rate. And rate is a ratio that compares two units Sorry, not 2 units. 2 quantities. There we go. Ratio that compares 2 quantities in different units. In different units. For example, let's say I have 5 boxes of cereal. And we're going to compare that to, it cost us $12. Okay, so we have 1 unit, which is 5 boxes. We have our second unit, $12. Okay, I could figure out approximately how much money each box cost, which that would be what we're going to talk about next, which is our unit rate. So we have our rate, and then our unit rate. So if we think of unit, we think of 1. Okay, so unit rate would be comparing or getting it down to 1. How much would 1 box of cereal cost? Okay, so let's define unit rate. Unit rate is a rate that has a denominator of 1. Okay, so here's our example of a unit rate. 55 miles per hour. How would I write that? 55 miles per, remember, now we're getting back to our friendly line with the kitty on it. So if I see per, and we're talking fractions, guys, we put our fraction bar with our little kitty on it because kitties say per. When we see per, we put our line. 55 miles per 1 hour, right? Because it doesn't say 55 miles per hours. Nope, per hour. I better erase that S then. Per 1 hour. Okay. What about $5? Here's another example. $5 per ounce. Okay, so again, we would go $5 per, there's our little kitty, 1 ounce. Okay, so again, these are unit rates because our denominators are 1. Sometimes, though, they're not going to give it to us as unit rates. They might say, well, it takes me $3 or 3 hours to paint 5 walls in my house. How many hours does it take me to paint 1 wall? So then we got to figure that stuff out. We'll talk about that, though. Okie dokie. So how do we find a unit rate? Okay, here we go. Here is our first question we're going to do together. There are 2 liters of water. So a 2-liter bottle of water costs $1.98. Okay, we want to know how much does 1 liter cost. We know that that's going to go on the denominator. So we're going to have 2 liters on the bottom. On the top, we're going to write $1.98. Okay, so again, how do I get my denominator to 2? Well, there's a 1, divide it by 2, divide it by 2. Okay, so now I'm left with 1 liter on the bottom. And if I take $1.98 divided by 2, I would get 0, goes 19 9 times, minus 18. Bring down my 8. 2 goes in 18 9 times. So it would cost 99 cents for 1 liter of water. Okay, let's try another one. I might be able to fit it in down here. I'm going to try just because I like a challenge here. Okay, you are going to drive 425 miles, and you will use 12 gallons, 12.5 gallons of gas. All right, so I guess I'm going to have to move up a little bit. Whoop, whoop. Okay, here we go. All right, so if we think about it, we usually talk about miles per gallon. Okay, so we want to know how many miles can I go on 1 gallon of gas, miles per gallon. So I'm going to put 425 miles on top per 12.5 gallons. How do I get my bottom equal to 1? Divide by 12.5. Divide the numerator by 12.5. I'm going to be left with a denominator of 1 gallon, or miles per 1 gallon, okay? So now I have to do 425 divided by 12.5. Move it over 1, move it over 1. Bring it up. Okay, I'm going to erase so that it looks nice and neat because I like things to look nice and neat. Okay, so 125 can go into 425. I'm going to guess 3 times. I'd get 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. 375, yep. 3 minus 375. 2 minus 7, can't do it. 12 minus 7 would be 5. 3 minus 3 would be 0, so we'd get 50. Okay, so bring down my 0. How many times can 125 go into 500? So I know 3 is 375. If I added up another 125, how about that? 125 times 4, 20, 8, 9, 10, 4, 5, 500 on the dot. Okay, so it would take, we could go 34 miles per 1 gallon. So that would be our unit rate because, again, our denominator is 1 liter. Is 1. One more thing to talk about here quick. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. It is how to use dimensional analysis to convert ratios. This is something new. We haven't talked about this before. We've talked about unit rates. We've talked about ratios and rates. We have not talked about using dimensional analysis to convert ratios. What dimensional analysis is if I say I want to change 12 inches and I want my answer to be in feet. Okay, so I would put it over 1, multiply it. I know inches has to go on the bottom because we want them to cross off. Feet has to go on top. Then I ask myself, how many feet are in how many inches are in how many feet? I know there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Okay, so if I'm multiplying these two, then I would just cross this out and make it a 1. So 1 foot equals 12 inches. Okay, so that's dimensional analysis. This is a little review here. Now we have to take it to the next step, next level, in using it to convert ratios. Okay, so here's our first example. It is 30 gallons per 1 minute. And we want to know how many cups in how many seconds, okay? So first off, I'm going to start by converting gallons into cups. So I have to ask myself, well, I want gallons on the bottom because we know gallons need to get cut off. And we want cups on the top. Okay, and I know that there are 16 cups in 1 gallon. Okay, so gallons would cross off. All right, I would have to do 30. Well, on the bottom, I do 1 minute times 1. So I'd get 1 minute on the bottom. Okay, on the top, I have to do 30 times 16. Okay, 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 3 is 18. Add my 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 3 is 3. 0, 8, 4. Okay, so I would get 480 cups per 1 minute. But that's not what our directions told us. Our directions told us we needed to do cups per second. Okay, so now I have 480 cups per 1 minute. I would need to multiply. I know I want minutes on top because I want them to cross off. Seconds would go on the bottom. Okay, I want my answer to be in cups per second, so that's what I need to do. I know there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. Okay, my minutes are going to cross off. I'm going to do 480 cups times 1, so I would get 480 cups per 60 seconds. Okay, but I want to know per second. I don't want to know per seconds. So I need to get my rate. I need to find a unit rate for this one. So I'm going to divide by 60 to get my denominator to be a 1 so that this can be a unit rate. Okay, 60 divided by 60, so I know my answer is going to be per 1 second. Then I have to do what is 480 divided by 60. Well, I know that 6 times 8 is 48. So what would 60 times 8 be? Well, that would be 480. So it can go 8 cups per 1 second. Okay, what we have to think of is we always have to think of what do I want? What am I trying to do? First, I was trying to get rid of gallons, so I have to make sure they're on opposite sides of our little fraction line, our fraction bar. Okay? Then I make sure I'm doing 1 minute times 1 gallon, times 1, because gallon crossed off, so I would get 1 minute on the bottom. I look at the top, I have 30, remember gallons crossed off, so I just have the number 30 times 16 cups. So that's why our answer is 480 cups. Okay, so now I just took this number right here, and I brought it down here, 480 cups over 1 minute. But I don't want my answer to be in minutes, I want it to be in seconds. So in order to cross minutes off of the bottom, I have to put it on the top or in the numerator. Okay, my minutes are crossed off, so I do 480 cups times 1. So I get 480 cups. 1 times 60 seconds would be 60 seconds. Then I found my unit rate by dividing the numerator and denominator by 60 to get my answer of 8 cups per second, which is what we wanted. The directions said find 30 gallons per minute, change it into cups per second. We're going to do a couple more of these, so don't get worried quite yet if you aren't quite sure. If you do need to go back and watch, that's always available to you though. Okay, so for number 2, they want us to take 3.5 quarts per minute and change it into gallons per hour. Okay, so I'm going to start off with 3.5 quarts per 1 minute. I can choose what I want to do first. I'm going to get rid of the top first. So I'm going to put quarts on the bottom and gallons on top. Now we just have to see how many quarts are in a gallon. And there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. Okay, so Quarts crosses off. We are left with 3.5 times 1 gallon, so 3.5 gallons over 1 minute times 4, so we'd get 4 minutes. Okay, let's bring that down. 3.5 gallons per 4 minutes. Okay, so the next one, okay, now I'm going to try to get my minutes into hours. So I know my minutes were on the bottom over here. Now I need to put them on the top so that they will cross off. Put hours on the bottom. Okay, I know that there are 60 minutes per 1 hour. So I'm going to again multiply through. Oh, gallons, we want gallons. Minutes are going to cross off. So I have to do what is 3.5 times 60. Let's do that right here. I'll get a 0, add my 0. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 more is 21. So our answer is 210. So I would get 210 over 4 times 1 hour, so I'd get over 4 hours. Now let's make it that unit rate, 410 gallons in 4 hours. So let's make it that unit rate, so I'd have 210 gallons over 4 hours, divided by 4, divided by 4, so I would get 1 hour, 210 divided by 4, 5 times minus 20. 4 goes into 10 2 times minus 8. Add my decimal. So it can pump 52.5 gallons per 1 hour. Okay, that is all that I have for you today. If you have any questions, please make sure to stop in and ask, either before or after school or during recess. Just let me know on Edmodo when you're coming in. Thanks for watching.